Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Building Blocks podcast. My name is Matt Windley and thank you very much for joining us. As I record this right now, it's actually the morning after the night before, where Berwick City was revealed as the club that we are embarking upon this ambitious project to change Australian football with as part of the Breaking Barriers documentary. We've already been absolutely flooded by a lot of positive feedback and also a little bit of negative feedback, and that's okay. We can address some of that in a sec. But yeah, there's a lot of excitement around, and if nothing else, really good that we don't have to pretend anymore that we don't know which club that we are doing this with, because I might have accidentally let it slip on the Rosé podcast with Adam Peacock a couple of weeks ago who the club was. A couple of eagle eyes heard and saw that one. We also were very transparent with our communications with the club as well, and put communications out to the members a few days before it went live last week, and a few people picked up on that as well. But that's okay. It's all part of the fun of it. It's out and about now, and it's really now just the start of the real fun and the journey with Berwick City Soccer Club. Just a couple of points, if I may, before we get to the real nuts and bolts of this podcast, which is getting to know the Berwick City president, Tim Hobson, the Berwick City senior men's coach, Tony Lettieri, and also a long-time friend of mine, long-time committee member and current senior assistant coach, Joe Di Iorio. Just a few points on Berwick City, the club, and the selection process that we went through, all that sort of stuff. We knew there was always going to be controversy to a point, quote unquote, around who the club was that we chose, because everyone's parochial, right? Everyone wants to see their club, or they've got a particular view on a particular region, all that sort of stuff. I think though, and this might sound too harsh, but like anyone getting their knickers in or not, I guess, over which club that we did this with is probably missing the point a little bit about this project. We could have done this with 50, 60, 70, 80 clubs across Melbourne, across Australia. And that's the whole point of this journey that we're embarking upon. It's not about the club. This is not a documentary about Berwick City Soccer Club per se. It's a documentary that enables us to have an ongoing and positive conversation about what Australian football can be and what it should aspire to be. Berwick City is the vehicle for that, but it could have just as easily been Mornington, it could have been Joondalup, it could have been Mount Gambier. So yeah, as I say, real props and kudos to Berwick City for believing in us at Bruce, to go on this journey with them. But to say that we should have gone this place, we should have gone that place, absolutely. There is a million places that we could have done. We can only do it once though. So, and then that's the other thing, right? So it doesn't matter if this club was in Sydney or in Melbourne or in Perth, right? It's not about, oh, we're just going to add another club to the A-League in Melbourne. We're a long way from the A-League, let me tell you that. We are a good 5 promotions away from getting in there. So we are a no thought right whatsoever for the powers that be in the A-League right now. But it's not about adding another A-League club into Melbourne. It's about adding dozens of clubs to the ecosystem, the A-League's ecosystem. We want to see the South Melbournes, the Prestons, the Marconis, the Adelaide Cities, the Sunshine Coast Fires, the Brisbane Strikers, all that sort of stuff rise up. And I've, gone on ad nauseum about the A1, A2 idea, A2 milk. Come on, get on board. I think we can get you. This, I suppose, evolution of the Australian football pyramid, if it was to ever take place, it needs a critical mass of clubs from across the country that are going to rise up and sort of put their hands up to say, we want to be a professional club. Might take us 5 years, might take us 20 years, might take us 50 years, but we want to be able to put that plan in place to be able to rise and, potentially challenge the top dogs one day. Ultimately, if that system opens up, then you've got plenty of other clubs that are going to be challenging Berwick City for the right to rise to the top flight. And we may never get there, but hopefully this project in its own small way can promote those conversations and potentially, who knows, be the straw that breaks the camel's back and prompt change one day. The fact that it was my local club, very conveniently, I reveal in the podcast a couple of interesting text messages that I got from friends and Adrian Leia, who appeared in episode 2 of the documentary a couple of weeks ago, just accusing me of fraud and saying this was just a big ruse to ultimately just do a big project in my backyard. That was actually a really big risk with what we were doing. And you saw a little bit of that transpire in episode 3 of the documentary, like legitimate conversations between ourselves in the Bruce offices about which club was the best to go with. And the fact, like, Berwick City Soccer Club, regardless of where we live, I live, anything like that, is the perfect club, we think, to do this with. But going with a Berwick City risked some reputational damage, I guess, because you could have then thought that the process was cheapened, that it actually wasn't a real process to go with any other club other than Berwick. I can assure you that we went with a legitimate process to come up with the club that we thought was going to be best for this, and our hearts were torn. I genuinely wanted to go with a Mornington Soccer Club, for example, and tap into that Mornington Peninsula. So yeah, it was something that we had to factor in to our decision-making process as to whether or not the upside was worth the potential downside of people, having a crack at Berwick City as a club with, local favouritism. But it was a risk we're prepared to take. And look, there's actually some logistical issues there, right, too, which actually makes it a hell of a lot easier for us to do this project. So we were restricted realistically as a agency based in Melbourne, being Bruce, to do this with a club in metropolitan Melbourne. We want to do a really good job on this project, this documentary. We believe in what we are doing and we believe in the cause, but there are some real logistical issues around, being at trainings, being at games, going and interviewing players, all that sort of stuff. And so the further and further and further that we took it away from metropolitan Melbourne meant that we would have had to take shortcuts. And ultimately the end product of the documentary, the Breaking Barriers documentary, would have suffered. And that's going to do a disservice to you, the viewer and the fans of people that have, thankfully tuning in to watch this. It also would have done a disservice to the club and not really respected the club. And it ultimately would have done a disservice to this project, because if the end product wasn't very good, the movement then struggles to generate momentum, and therefore everything that we're doing here is sort of, a bit of a waste of time, because this is not a gimmick. Like, we are deadly serious about this. We are deadly serious, and I am deadly serious about taking Berwick City into the A-League one day. Ultimately, whether we get there or not will be decided on the park by people that are far better at kicking a football around than I am. So there are so many interesting barriers and obstacles in the way. Of course, none less than the fact that there is no promotion and relegation in Australian football at the moment. But yeah, we are taking this dead seriously, and so we wanted to make every post a winner when it came to, doing this concept. I saw a lot of people talking about the fact that, you should do it with a regional town like Shepparton or Albury or Ballarat or Bendigo, and I totally agree. It would be fantastic to do this project in those towns and many others, country towns, across Australia. The reality is we're not best placed to do that because of literally where we are based and where all our cameramen live and everything like that. So we had to make a choice that was right for us in the sense of where we were going to do this with. But I encourage you, if you feel passionately about your local club or your local area and you think that somewhere else would have been perfect for this, go and do it. We want copycats for this. Go and be involved in your local club, do something about it. Join up as a volunteer, join up on the committee. Work with the committee to come up with a long-term plan, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, to move sustainably from where you are, whether it's in a regional town or down in the metro leagues or the state leagues or whatever, to move your way up the pyramid into the NPL system and then up to the championship and into the A-League. Why not? Like, we're doing it. Anybody else can do it. The whole point of this is to encourage plenty of other clubs out there to go and do that. And we want to create that groundswell of community clubs across the country who can ultimately, raise the standards and raise the opportunity and the possibility, I guess, that something like this could transpire in effect of, bringing in like an A1, A2 situation or an open pyramid, whatever that looks like. And also too, anyone that thinks that Berwick is metropolitan Melbourne is kidding themselves. Just ask Jack, the cameraman who is standing behind here right now, who lives in Sunshine, and it takes him a good hour and 15 minutes to get here. He is really pissed off that we didn't go with the club in Geelong, because it says that he said that would have been far closer and far easier for him. It definitely takes me more than an hour to get into the city every day for work. So yeah, it's most definitely not metropolitan Melbourne. And again, dare I say, harking back to the old Team 11 days, that was a sort of a big point of what we were trying to do in terms of putting a team out in this region, an A-League team out in this region, is that it's a long way from the city. People don't like travelling in. It's getting harder and harder and harder, particularly with sport being at night. We want to bring professional sport back to the burbs, and so if this can do that potentially in any small way, then yeah, why not? So That's enough rambling from me. You absolutely hear more than enough rambling from me. Let's get to the crux of this episode, and that is, as I said off the top, introducing you to the president, Tim, senior men's coach, Tony, and the longtime president previously, Joe, a good friend of mine, or the three of them are good friends of mine, I should really say now. So we go into depth about some of their storylines, quote unquote. We try not to repeat things that we've seen in the documentary, trying to give you a little bit of an insight, I suppose, into sort of some of the back channel conversations that have sort of been had over time, some of the deliberations. Tony talks about whether or not he was doing made-for-TV drama or whether he was actually against doing this documentary project with Berwick, as was demonstrated in episode 3 of the documentary last week. So yeah, we're trying to give you some of that behind-the-scenes sort of content if you're really fanging for more, which I guess if you're watching this right now or listening to this right now, you are. So without further ado, let's listen to the guys and see what they have to say. Tim, Tony, Joe, welcome. We're finally doing this. Our big secret is finally out. Great start. Cool. We didn't script that very well. Excellent. We have just watched, and thank God I'm saying this because, as Tony has just said, he forgets whether or not he's in 2025 or 2026 or what shirt to wear or whatever. We've literally just minutes ago watched episode 3 where Berwick gets revealed as the club with the senior playing squad and some of the junior NPL players and all that sort of stuff, and there was a pretty good vibe. I'll go to you, Joe, because you've got a big smile on your face right now. All of you do, but what did you think watching in there?
Look, it's amazing. It's not what I don't know what I expected. But having watched the production and the first 2 episodes, it's like, wow, holy shit, this is real. It's happening. And then seeing yourself on there, I'm just there going, is that how I sound? That's I sound shit, but. No, it's exciting, and you know what?
I'm the total opposite. I thought I looked great, sounded great. I was like, I'm really dragging this thing along. Yeah. I'm dragging this thing along. My eyes were sparkling.
Yeah, because you were having words with Gospel at training a couple of nights ago saying, can you make me look as good as humanly possible?
Yeah, he didn't have to do much, like he said, but, what he did do was pretty good, I reckon.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I don't know about you two, but I was impressed by it.
I'm not sure how I sounded, but... there's been a few special comments, which is interesting and makes you giggle. And
I've got to tell you, I was getting a text. So live watching it with the players, a good friend of mine was watching it live, and he sent me a text. And the text, he just started watching it. Tony better fucking get on board.
Someone has to be a villain, right?
There was a bit of talking, and then he put, phew, he's on board. So I think I was nervous at one point watching it there, going, because I hadn't seen any of that. I know, obviously I know how you were about it, and you were sceptical, and you did have, it was a stressful time where we were sitting, but to watch it back, I didn't realise how much convincing you had to do, because I think in Joe and mine's head, it was like, okay, how do we make this happen?
Let's get to that. I do want to talk about that because Tony's just leaning straight into his big, Hulk Hogan heel moment, which is fantastic. But don't you worry, we get to see the real Tony that we know and love over the course of the next few weeks. Just holistically, before we go back, what have you made of? Have you been surprised by the reaction to the series? Obviously, Berwick's only come into it in the last few hours as we record this, but it just in general, when we started talking about this a good 6 months ago to what the reaction has been over the course of the last few weeks, have you been surprised?
Look, I think for me, the football people are getting it straight away. I think they know the challenges, they know the structural issues of trying to get to the A-League. So it's been really positive from a football perspective. My wife said to me, do you have to be a football person to know and understand this? She lives it, she hears it, all of our challenges at a club level. But I think overall the Berwick community has been really good. We obviously, it's come out and there's lots of emails and there's lots of positivity. you know, the early episodes 1 and 2, when it was really about what is the concept, you know, what is the aim behind following Berwick. Like I said, I think football people get it. I think after that, it's going to take, people see a club and they'll understand. Non-football people understand when they see a club and they see a community and they see everything that we go through on a daily basis. I think there'll be a lot of, I think it'll drag in people from all walks, not non-football people.
Agreed. From a football perspective, Tony, do you think it'll put a target on our backs?
Oh, absolutely, right. I think it already has, right? So, look, whenever you do something like that, you put yourself out there to be judged, right? So, you know, we've done that. We're happy to do that. And now, collectively, as a group, as a club, as a community, we stand by each other. We know what outcome we would like to achieve, right? We're setting ourselves up to hopefully achieve that. But as you know, in football, and those that have been in the game a little while, you need a little bit of luck as well on your side, that your team's healthy, people are on the park, and you get a little bit of luck, right? So I think we've put together a pretty good side.
Don't talk about our recruits. We're going to, I think some people know, but we're not talking about them yet.
We put it together.
I know, I'm just trying to
take it easy, Matt.
Take your foot out of your mouth
I'm
before
the
you do that.
calm one. Matt's a little bit.
Are you making a comeback? Is that why we've put together a good side?
Just quietly on Monday night, I did nutmeg a few players, and everyone was quiet.
Did you?
Going, woo,
Really?
Still
Still
got it.
got it.
Yeah, cool.
Still
Did
got
you see
it.
that shot, by the way?
I saw it.
And that was right foot, and at the other game it was left foot. Do you remember
Still
that?
got it.
Cool.
Still got it.
What were we talking about?
I don't know. It's okay. Let me talk about a few of your individual storylines, quote unquote. So I've said this a few times, happy to break the fourth wall. Clearly there were some conversations that we had to recreate, but everything that you have seen so far and will see in the documentary literally did happen, to the point where we were so anal about actually having the conversations in the same place, same cafe, same seats, all that sort of stuff. So it all actually happened. So Joe, because there'll be skepticism about, I had one of my mates, I'm gonna read this. It's not good for podcasting because you can't see what I'm doing right now. I'm in a group chat with some of my friends that I used to work at APL with. Comes through with a picture of me, says loving life, and then quote, local man cock teases a nation with false candidate clubs to instead pursue his passion project in his backyard. So that is some of the sentiment. Also, Adrian Layer as well, because obviously when we did the filming with him for episode 2, we didn't tell any of those guys, Archie, Norm, Josip, Ado, Bailey, which club we were going with, just to say, we told them we were considering clubs in their region, but we didn't say which club. So they went into that thinking, okay, well, I might be advocating for a club that actually might get up. I get an image of a map from Ado saying also where I live. He said, this is absolutely sickening. It's conveniently a stone's throw from your house. I'm calling for your resignation. Joe, legitimately, when I went to Margot's with you that day, I did not come and ask about Berwick. You were the one that changed or put that idea in my head, correct?
Correct, but before you go on, you actually have moved out of Berwick.
Yes. Yes. Beaconsfield, right next door, part of the family.
No, I remember the meeting quite well. Like you just come back from a holiday.
That's right. Yeah.
And you told me that while you were there, all you could think about was this project. And
No, while I could think about was relaxing with my family and switching off from work.
like we all do.
Yeah.
You know, football's in our minds,
Yeah.
like 24/7. And as you're talking to me, I'm just going, why haven't you even thought about Berwick? You mentioned all these other regions, but you hadn't mentioned the southeast of Melbourne at all. And I don't know whether that was on purpose, but I know you were...
We're pretty frank with each other. I'm not a salesman to you.
And I know you were pretty keen on one particular region.
So?
Mornington.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you were keen on the Mornington Peninsula area for all of the great things that are there. Not just football, because it's more than football. It's about the region, the community. And I love the Mornington Peninsula. My parents are down there. And I just thought, you haven't considered the southeast. The city of Casey is one of the largest local government areas in Australia, one of the fastest growing. You've got strong connections already with people at Greater Dandenong, Casey, Cardinia, and I just thought you needed to consider another region. It didn't have to be Berwick; it could have been any other club, but I just thought that the southeast of Melbourne was, for me, the region to target.
So for anyone getting stuck into me, it's Joe's fault, basically, is what you're saying.
But I yes. Look,
Yes.
obviously, yeah. Look, I mean, got a close affinity with Berwick. Berwick's in my heart. But there's so many great clubs in Victoria, but in the southeast, and we've got some great rivalries with clubs in this area. So I was pushing for something in this area.
Tim, so Joe was obviously president when we did the Team 11 bid, and Berwick City, the club, as well as Joe, the person, were extremely big supporters of what we were doing back there. Met with Tony plenty of times around that journey as well. Might have asked him to try and invest into Team 11, just like we asked about a million other people in the region. You came along to the club later, so we didn't have much of a relationship. We'd met each other a couple of times in passing. I liked you,
I'm a likeable guy.
Yep, you are. Cool. You meant to say the same about me, but that's fine. No worries. We can get to that later.
I found you say enough about that yourself, but that's okay. You put words in my mouth, let's say.
So then it's a pretty big leap of faith, for you as president of the club to sort of, sight unseen, essentially go, yep, this is an idea for us. I'm happy to take this forward and advocate for it.
Look, I think, again, we'll blame Joe. Really, and we went over the conversation, I think it was yesterday or today, about the real, we went through the reasons why not. And then ultimately Joe said, worst case scenario, 20 years in the future when people are looking back, as we've done over the last 50, with it being our 50 years, we've got something documented. There's something on the internet where people from Berwick in 20, 30, 40, 50 years time have a point in time where they can go back, and it shows a bit about the club, what they were doing at the time. And so for us, from that comment alone, it was like, it's a no-brainer. If it doesn't work, the worst case scenario is we have a documentation out there of all the hard work, of what we've done, of what we're proud of, to really show the future Berwick presidents, members, of what it was like back in 2025. What is
doesn't work? Because tell people about some of the non-negotiables that we spoke about and you were really firm with me about that we couldn't cross.
It was really, we're a community club first and foremost. It has to stay that way. We can't be paying for anything.
Yep.
No money can come from the juniors. It's something that all three of us are passionate about, but something that Tony and myself have done a lot of work on. So that was a non-negotiable. If we don't get promoted, for me, it's, if we don't get promoted this year, we'll still be going next year. We'll still be going the year after.
Yep.
So there was a few, snippets and moments. If it works, if it doesn't go anywhere, if there's no viewers, if there's nothing that gets no traction, we've got some great documentation of what we've done. Now, if it does work and we get traction and that helps us attract players, and it gets some crowds and it gets us extra sponsors and we get promoted and it keeps rolling with us, then fantastic. That's our goal. We've been trying to get promoted from Joe's time, from my time. We walked through the facilities to get on record, I think, all the hard work that's been done by many people, but by a lot of people who are still here to get to this point, to get to where we are at today. It was a no-brainer. Ultimately we have to get promoted.
Yeah. It was a no-brainer for you.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer for Joe. wasn't
Tony.
exactly a no-brainer for Tony.
Tony took a little.
So was this TV
Everyone's
drama?
trying to make me the villain. Have a look at him.
Tony had a different pressure to all of us,
Yeah.
right? Tony, as you saw, and rightly so, as he pointed out, and to be fair, I think that was the part that we were like, is it going to add to what we're trying to do here, or is it going to take away?
Yeah.
Meaning, is it going to be a distraction for Tony? Is it going to be a target? I've always felt we've got a target because it doesn't matter. You can look at results and then we'll play anyone, particularly at Berwick, every team seems to lift for me. I don't know what it is, but every team seems to lift. So, are we putting a target on our back, being out there doing all this? But, we're doing it for the right reason. We're doing it for football. I think that's what we all said. We all love Berwick, but we love football. And we're doing it. There's a showcase of Berwick City Soccer Club, there's a showcase of Berwick, there's a showcase of Casey, but ultimately there's the fundamental that we're trying to change football in Australia for the benefit of all.
Yeah, and that's the point I want to finish on, so we'll get back to that in a sec. So, again, skeptics, we did made for TV drama, but no, it was real. Some of the conversations that you guys had on screen were legitimately real conversations. Tony, you needed some convincing about this?
Yeah, I did, right? So I guess it's something new for us at the club and me in particular, right? So, as a coach, I was always focused on, the senior playing group and obviously getting results, and we always want to get promoted. Like, there's no team every year, round one, going into that league not wanting to get promoted, right? So, it wasn't really on my radar to even think about or want to think about. And, at that time we didn't have too many great results, and you're thinking, what's all this going to be about? And you know what, I don't have time for this, and do I want to have time for this? And I don't think, you're not thinking clearly. So I guess at the time, as people know, I could possibly be emotional every now and again, they reckon. So I think it was maybe one of those emotional times that you go, oh man, let's park this and think about another day.
In fairness though, the timing wasn't great because we were really in a relegation.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And I remember you messaging me a couple of times to get results of some really critical games.
Yeah, because Shahim wasn't great on the social media. Like, where I had to wait until Monday morning, like get the bloody. I had to literally. I'm trying to see if Shahim's behind us. There was a couple of crucial games because you can see the scoreboard over the back when you drive out Ernst Wanke Road. I actually did laps a couple of times just to check on the scoreboard, just to see what the result was, because I wanted to make sure you were out of relegation trouble.
So yeah, in fairness to Tony, yeah, look, he was like, we had plenty of conversations where you were like, F this, like he might be out of a job because we're going to get relegated. So that was the furthest thing from his mind. So I think at the time wasn't even on your radar because we were dealing with the pressures of trying to keep the team in the league. And yeah.
And we had some challenges as well, right? So a few things weren't going our way, and just other things that happened up to then in the season and off the field and on the field and what have you. So as a club and as a group, we were dealing with a number of things. So that affected the whole group. So you go, okay, how do you keep these guys together? How do you keep these guys motivated? How do you keep yourself motivated? How do you keep yourself positive? That's a big part of football now. And, Joe and I speak every day. And we always talk about, a lot of it's got to do with, player management and staff management. So you try to get better and better at that. And the coaching side is important, but making sure your players, your staff, and the people behind the scene, the volunteers at a club that put in a hard shift that probably a lot of people don't thank enough to keep us on the park too. So that's always been my thought, especially at Berwick. My kids played here, and been here for a little bit now, and it becomes part of you, right? And you just want success. There was a little while ago, unfortunately, we missed out on getting promoted by 1 point. Last game of the season, we were winning 2-1, and unfortunately we ended up losing that game 3-2. And Boroondara and South Springvale got promoted, and unfortunately, we finished third. But it was an unbelievable season, and just to see that heartbreak. Missing out by that 1 point or that last game of the season, I still think about it. So to bring some joy to a group and I guess a region, and hopefully this not only tells a story about football for all, but hopefully we can get people behind us around the region, Berwick, those that maybe don't come and watch local football, come and watch it.
100%. Yeah, and you're a difficult one because, if I wanted to be malicious, if it was any other club and it was just a sort of not a blow-in coach, but a coach that wasn't sort of steeped in history around the club, it would have been relatively easy, I suppose, to sort of steamroll and not give a shit about the coach and just be like, well, at the end of the day, you're a coach. I'll go to the president, I'll go to whoever other the power brokers are. But you're so entrenched in this club, have been for such a long time, have been involved for such a long time, are so passionate about it, your kids are here, everything like that. If you weren't for it, even if Tim and Joe and Shahim and Sarah were for it, if you weren't for it, I actually don't think I would have wanted to do it. Because I think for something like this to work, you need everyone on board, and everyone buying in.
Look, you do, and whatever you do at a club, right? Tim always talks about what does good look like. That's one of his favourite sayings, right? What does good look like, right? And I think the three of us and a number of people behind the scenes and others, we've always put Berwick first. What is the best decision for Berwick Soccer Club? No problems, right? So if we keep that at the helm, I think, with all the football gods, hopefully we head in the right direction. But that's always how we've always thought, and we'll continue to think that way. So hopefully,
And then when you commit, you did a 180 very quickly. You're like, oh, Matty, we got a sponsors day. Have you thought about bringing the cameras down? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about shooting that? Do you want me to resend this? We probably talk about 7 or 8 times a week. So you are fully on board now, it's fair to say.
Oh, look, once I've committed to something, whatever that is, I'll give my 110%, whatever that is.
I also think that's Tony behind the scenes, though. There's Tony, the coach, and you'll get to see, I'm sure, throughout the episodes, he's the first person here, I think, by 5:15, setting up for a 6:45 session, going over his cones, checking it twice. But
they've got to be straight.
They've got to be straight. I don't know how many times he gets me to ring the line marker who uses sat-nav to mark the lines, tells me it's wrong and ends up being right. But
no, he uses the wrong tape.
But there's then Tony, the club person as well. And I think that's, as we keep coming back to community club, it's not just one hat. Joe hasn't got one hat. I don't have one hat. Tony doesn't. Sarah, Shahim doesn't. Shahim's a coach and he's the secretary. Sarah's treasurer, she does. Registrar. So I think that's part of the club, and it's represented well through Tony that, he's the senior coach, he's a parent, he runs the line on a Sunday for his daughter's game. He does all the fundraising. He's a go-to person for me to get a balanced opinion, as is Joe. And I think that's, again, what everyone, or what you want people to see, is it's not just a coach and a president. There's so many hats worn by so few, and that's where the passion comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Conscious of time, because in real time, as we record this, it's 10:15 and you've all got day jobs.
And my son's waiting to go home.
I know. Well, he was. Maybe he's walking. Yeah. I realised that you got this when you repeated back to me something that I sort of had said, but didn't articulate even it as well as what you did at the time. And I'm not sure if you even remember what I'm about to say, but the point, this is not a story about Berwick. Berwick is the vehicle to have a conversation about Australian football. You're fully behind that, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you got that straight away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And why are you passionate about that?
But like I said, I think we're all, first and foremost, we're all football people. Berwick my son brought me to Berwick. I coached. I got on the committee. I got as president. These guys have had the same. Your son, you told the story. Your son, your daughter. You know, then coaches. Both of them coaches, or all three of us coaches.
4 of us coaches. Thank you. Don't forget the under 8 Eagles.
4 of us coaches, but we're all football lovers, and to see football progress in Australia, and it doesn't only create an opportunity for Berwick, it creates an opportunity for kids to be able to play at their club that they grew up at, that they're comfortable at, and support it, and maybe play for it at a higher level. And hopefully A-League becomes a B-League and it's a professional league, and then a C-League and a professional league, Divvy, Premier League 1, 2, whatever, like we see in Europe. Therefore, ultimately, the opportunity is more opportunity for kids to play the game at a level.
Yep.
And I think that's ultimately what we'd all want to see.
100%. Please answer this truthfully, however you want. It does
One
not matter.
word?
No, that's impossible for you.
Okay.
Do you think Berwick City will play in the A-League one day?
No. Only because I think the struggle is going to be changing. I think we're capable. I think we can get there. I think we can do all the work. I'm just sceptical that it's ever going to change at the top.
Okay. Tony?
Mate, we've gone to all this effort to say no.
You told me to be honest.
So you're telling me I was right at the beginning?
No.
We've gone through all this trouble.
I'm still scared.
We've gone through all this trouble.
Can I tell you, we've got the right people, right? If we can get more clubs on board, that's what we need. It's going to take more than Berwick. It's going to take
Absolutely.
the football community. It's going to take all clubs to come together to really put pressure on Football Australia to make a change. Otherwise, we're one club up against a behemoth. Really, that's. I'd like to think we can. One word. I'd like to think we can, but at this point, it just seems like, you know.
That's fine. I asked for honesty. Tone?
Pass. No. I'm going to say there's always a chance.
Good.
Right? There's always a chance. From the villain at the beginning to the half glass full man. You've got it on. You've got it. Right? So, look, I think like what Tim says, it'll take a group of people, it'll take a group of clubs, all the likes of, if everyone could pull together, and the beauty about football is this, I think. Every day, somewhere in the world, there's thousands and thousands of people talking about football. Good things about it, things that need to improve, and all these types of discussion. If we can, as a whole football community, get together and say, if we all that passionate about it, let's make a difference, right? Let's make a positive difference. Like you will watch now that's come out, this episode, the kids around the club alone will be buzzing. Like for them to go wherever they go, and they already feel welcome and belong to Berwick City as their club, they're going to feel even better about it, purely of what's just happened, right? And I hope every other kid at every other club feels connected to their club, right? So I think it'll take the whole lot of the football world, in Victoria especially, that we know. I'm not sure what happens in other states. But, you know, if this gives people drive and ambition and to change, and we can hopefully, I guess, convince the powers above that what's currently working, are we getting the best out of football in this country? You know, we're against AFL, we're against rugby, basketball. You know, if you look back at basketball, they had a point in time when they weren't travelling great. They've turned it around, and the crowds are fantastic, and the spectacle's great. I think we need to learn from that, and what can we do to put bums on seats at stadiums?
Shout out to Larry Kesselman. Could sponsor Berwick City.
Nice pitch.
Good pitch, Timbo.
Nice.
See how I lead you into that?
Yeah.
See?
Good
The yin and the yang?
Absolutely. Joe?
I like Tony's answer now. I've changed.
No, you haven't.
I like Tony's answer. It's very diplomatic.
Joe?
You're going to hate me.
No. We spent last week disagreeing for an hour on A1, A2.
Yep.
Yeah.
But as the person that sort of, I don't know, led you to Berwick, I'm going to say no. There's no chance in hell. But what I do see is Berwick breaking down the barriers for other clubs around Australia who are much closer to the top of the pyramid than what we are. And I'm hoping that will be Berwick's legacy.
That's an incredibly salient point, you beautiful man. Because there are multiple ways that this project can win, right? You're happy with just winning State 2 and then you're done.
100%.
But like, if this forces the conversations that ultimately are the straws that break the camel's back in terms of changing the system and all that sort of stuff, like, we've won. And then we're in a bloody battle with 700 other clubs that want to get promoted up, right? And then it's on the field. So
no, but what we can become a feeder. We can, there's other ways of joining, right? And it might not be Berwick per se, but you might become a feeder club to one of these clubs that are successful, right?
Or as Ed Cavalier says, we sell out to some sort of Russian oligarch, or and we rise that way. It's all good.
So look, there's many ways to win, right? But you want football to be the winner, right? That's our ultimate goal. So, which you said before. So
I can't remember if I've said this or not, but I 100% firmly believe that Berwick will play in the A-League one day, and Joe will back me up to say that I'm crazy.
I 100% believe you. You've been consistent with that. I believe you, and I hope you.
Joe, tell them I'm a dog with a bone.
Yeah, you're certifiable. That's what we need.
What's that? We need to get a mascot, a dog.
No, we need a club.
We were talking about a mascot the other day. Actually, we need to talk about that.
No.
Can't have a lion.
Fine, but we need to get we actually need to get the suit for the kids.
Believe me, I've googled it.
We need a team psychologist. That's what we need. So I think Matt's probably going to be the first patient.
Yeah, absolutely.
A team of psychologists, if it's that.
You can do an offshoot already. He's already negative. You're going to have to now go do another offshoot for him to become positive.
Mate,
again.
I knew you were the hero. He's the real heel. But that's imagine in season 3 or 4 if he starts sabotaging and
Mate, you guys convinced me, and you know how I operate. So you've convinced me. So.
Hey, look, in all seriousness, and I'm spoiler alert for next week's episode, but you, Tony, summed this up. I mean, honestly, again, to your point, Tim, who knows how this is going to go? That's up to you and the players once you get out on the pitch. But also, it's going to be fun along the way. Like, we're going to have, it's
always fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
Well, you can see already. I mean,
There'll just be a lot of editing.
But you see the players, look, they've always been such a fantastic group. Like even before Joe and I have stepped in as senior coaches, that the group, the culture of the lads, mate, is fantastic. Anyone that comes outside the club for the first time, they gravitate to them, they welcome them, they do all these wonderful things as a group, and you just go, mate, how lucky are we to have, senior leaders like that are good people. And the young guys are coming in. Yeah, look, it's fantastic.
We're now represented by players from every continent.
Yep.
North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia. Yeah, we just need someone from Antarctica, I think.
Joe.
I like the snow. Can I come from there?
You do. Good way to, didn't think we'd be mentioning Antarctica. Didn't have that on the bingo list. Good way to finish. Boys, first of many. We'll be obviously talking a lot throughout the season and the years. But just from myself and from Bruce's perspective, thanks to the three of you for backing us in on this, because we wouldn't be sitting here without your support and your guidance and your care. So hopefully we do your faith justice. However it turns out, let's do it in the right way and see what happens. That was Tim Hobson, the Berwick City president, Tony Lettieri, the senior men's coach at Berwick City, and Joe Di Iorio, the senior men's assistant coach and long-time committee member and president. Thank you very much to the guys for their time and I hazard a guess that it will absolutely not be the last time that those guys appear in some way, shape or form on the Building Blocks podcast. So that's episode 4, a wrap on that. Next week we have episode 5, which obviously follows on from episode 5 of the Breaking Barriers documentary. The documentary, that's the last episode of the season, but good news for you, the Building Blocks podcast is going to continue on throughout 2026. We'll shift to a fortnightly cadence as opposed to a weekly cadence, but next week's documentary episode is all about the build towards the 2026 season on the pitch, including the meeting of a couple of key recruits that were brought into Berwick City Soccer Club. One of those recruits has sat down with us for an exclusive interview on the Building Blocks podcast to get to know a little bit more about him and his story. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm not going to tell you who it is yet because obviously that will ruin the surprise for episode 5 of the documentary. If you're getting to this point, thank you so much. You're obviously invested. It means a lot. Please, you're probably already liking and subscribing, but do yourself a favor and please do me a favor and tell your friends and family about it. We can spread it wide and talk about it honestly now that Berwick is the club. Makes it a lot easier. If you've got any thoughts, guests that you want us to interview, direction on the show and the podcast, please feel free to drop us a line, put something in the comments, anything like that. The support, as I say, has been overwhelmingly positive and we really, really appreciate it. So we'll leave you for now. Until next week, thank you for joining us on the Building Blocks podcast.